Hello, my name is Hyunwoo and today we'll be going over the P2R strategy. So you might be wondering what is P2R? So P2R is a reading strategy that improves your engagement and comprehension of reading material. And the steps to this are preview, read, and review. So in the preview step, you scan the titles, headings, keywords, and summaries, and you try to find what the main idea of the author wants to convey to you is basically. And after that, you move on to the read step where you just go through the text, try to find main ideas, supporting details, and after you try to reconnect it back to the previous step where you were trying to understand. Then you go to review, and then you try to summarize the points, ask questions to yourself to see if you really understood what the text is talking about. So let's get into the details of the steps. So first, when you're previewing something, you want to understand what the author wants to talk to you about. So, and also you could look for concepts that you might not understand, and this really helps you set a goal of or a purpose for reading this section. So you can find out what you want to really understand from this text. And overall, this step really helps you improve your focus and helps you recall information while you're reading. So on to the next step, read. A tip is to break down the reading into smaller sections so you don't feel overwhelmed because you have to read like 20 pages or something. So make sure you slow down at like concept heavy areas like theorems or formulas in order to really grasp the concept. And after that, you could read faster through examples because they don't provide as much information as the concept heavy areas. And make sure you can identify relationships in the text. So for example, like cause and effect and comparisons. And make sure you're actually reading the text with intention and you're just not skimming over it because that wouldn't really be effective. So the final step, review. You want to be able to explain the material without really looking back on the text, and you want to summarize it really well. And you could create some follow-up questions regarding the main concepts, so you can really ask yourself and try to understand if you really get the material. And this overall helps strengthen long-term memory and metacognitive awareness. So why is P2R effective? P2R is a very structured, linear process that allows you to follow really easily. So Rayner et al. From 2016 found that slowing down during complex material allows for better comprehension rather than other speedier approaches. So for example, P2R and SQ3R are much better than something like highlighting, which in the next part, Yu et al. Talks about how active engagement strategies did a lot better than the ones like that were passive, such as highlighting. And this really aligns with the metacognitive theory as it makes students monitor and evaluate their level of understanding. So how did I apply them to my studies? Well, I initially skimmed through and bolded texts that were unfamiliar to me. And then I set a goal of what I wanted to really understand. And after I read my resources, I divided all the sections into smaller sections. So it was much easier to digest. And then after I slowed down around like the concepts and theories. Then we went to the review step. I wrote a summary of what I learned and basically just a bunch of follow-up questions so I really could like test myself on this. And the results I got positive outcomes. I remembered a lot more materials without needing to really go back to the context. And this definitely helped me with long-term memorization because I could still remember it right now. And my notes were a lot more clear and organized afterwards. And this led to my grades going up in general. So I know P2R isn't for everybody, so that's why I have a couple of tips. So for example, you can make a timer for reading because I know everybody has a different pace of reading. So some we don't want to end up spending all the time just reading only, which gets me to my next tip, which is review the key terms before actually reading. So basically you could just look through the formulas or diagrams before you read so you have a general concept of what you're going to be learning and the conceptual parts of it. And finally, basically you can spend as much time as you want in the different phases. So you don't have to limit yourself like 30 minutes to reading, 30 minutes previewing. You can spend as much time on each section as you want. Okay, well that's about it. Thank you for listening. Have a nice night.